I've barely woken up and this one has really annoyed me. Let's get into why. This is a little combination of both my worlds, and so for people who are just in the neurodivergent community and don't know the Justin Baldoni context and vice versa, I'm going to have to give a bit of background so I don't offend anyone, but it is important. So text messages reveal that months before the release of the movie, Justin talked about going on a particular doctor's show, I don't know him, but talking about his neurodivergence as an offensive move. This, I think, out of context, could be offensive to us. Here's why it's not. So no neurodivergent can speak on behalf of all neurodivergents, but I'm very active in the community. I've been working with neurodivergent patients for about 5 years. I also go to schools and talk about my lived experience growing up undiagnosed to high school students. So it's an area I'm very, very passionate about and do want to be careful with my words here. I think for anyone to take that as a misunderstanding is a neurotypical, and that's why you misunderstood the whole point to begin with, and it's why Justin wants to get ahead with this. When you try and explain yourself, if you're in a position as a neurodivergent where all of a sudden your words are being picked at, it is a very unsettling place because all of a sudden language shifts become huge. It's like you're a different species, the way people will interpret what you're saying. So if you're being cherry picked, it is really natural for neurodivergent people not to find an excuse, but to want to talk about it, to people to see it through that lens. Because we feel if you see it like this, you won't think that at all. Now, in this case, Justin actually acknowledges that what he's been accused of is misinterpretations and a few poor comments, which isn't always great, especially when you're leading, but it is forgivable as a human, and especially when you understand the roots of where that might be coming from, not ill-intended, actually a neurological explanation to it. You think, okay, maybe people will get it, maybe this will help achieve harmony, people understand. I think the hard part is, I know from my experience as a neurodivergent, you got to be really, really geared up for neurotypicals not to give a shit. I think that talking about neurodivergence to the masses in such a way is a good PR move. Well, I'll let Chris answer this. He has a lot better insight than I in this area, shout out. In addition to a degree in psychology and one I'm currently completing, I actually also worked in marketing in my 20s for 7 years and have a degree in communication. When I look at these worlds coming together, I think the only way to speak directly to your neurodivergence is when it's directly to a neurodivergent audience. That will really resonate with a lot of us. However, when it's to the masses, there's a lot of risk of it being misinterpreted as such. Now, I know what you little AI generated bots might say who haven't turned on their nuance function. Didn't I say a couple weeks ago in relation to Claire that I don't like it when people come out and use their ADHD as a sort of card in retrospecting behavior? Yes, absolutely. Here's once again why this is a little bit different. So I did say in that video, Claire didn't really do anything that bad, but it reminded me of when big stars, especially males in the past, have used their ADHD to explain their behavior. Now, the cases I'm referring to is not Justin speaking to his PR person privately about wanting to do a heartfelt conversation with someone online so people get to see this side of him, preempting what was happening in terms of his words being picked apart, little action that appear to be innocent being twisted and manipulated. So the examples of people I'm using is not someone who is being penalized for the wrong words. It is people who use ADHD to explain extremely poor behavior. Now, none of you will probably know this guy because he's an Australian politician. This was the example that jumped into my head. He's quite controversial and he used his ADHD to explain some awful, awful behavior and started writing articles about it as a spokesman. It was really upsetting to the community. I think it's really hard when we start to hear a lot of terms that might not be unique to neurodivergence. They could just be, in other cases, perceived as character flaws, but they might actually have links in terms of neurological functioning. For example, oversharing. Not everyone would find this trait as attractive. Oversharing could be absolutely aligning with ADHD because of impulsiveness in speech and how we connect. So if someone says, oh, I'm an oversharer ADHD, that might not mean that they are not reflecting on their behavior. They might be trying to explain, oh, this is a little bit hard for me sometimes, but I'm aware of it and I'm sorry and I hope it doesn't bother you. I don't think Justin has done anything wrong in these messages at all. ADHD or autism or both is never an excuse, but it can be an explanation, and a time where it's probably a very, very relevant explanation is when you are being wrongly accused. It's not based on behavior. Misinterpretations of comments that in other settings could be benign. Sometimes when neurodivergents get themselves in trouble with neurotypicals without realizing, it's just the timing. And the thing is, the timing doesn't mean that you're saying something in an appropriateness of harassment or anything of that level. Sometimes it can just be the social timing. People just might not understand. I really understand these messages when I read them. If I try and imagine what he was going through and what he was attempting to do there, I don't think that's offensive to any neurodivergence, as they were private messages and what his intention was. I also think that more than anything, this being used against him just highlights the disconnect that we still have with neurotypicals in this world and feeling misunderstood.